The stars look different out here. Captain Lisa Martinez pressed her palm against the cold metal of the observation deck window and stared into the endless black. 3 months away from Earth, and she still felt like a stranger in this part of space. The human research vessel Harmony drifted slowly through the outer rim, its engines humming quietly as they approached the meeting point. "Captain, we're getting signals from the Zephyrian ships," called out Lieutenant Jake Sullivan from the bridge. His voice carried through the ship's communication system, breaking the silence that had settled over the crew for the past hour. Lisa took one last look at the stars and walked back to the bridge. The Harmony was not a warship. It carried no heavy weapons, no armor plating, and no soldiers. It was built for exploration and science, filled with researchers, diplomats, and engineers. 200 humans who had volunteered to make first contact. With the most powerful alien alliance in known space, the bridge buzzed with quiet activity. Officers sat at their stations, monitoring screens filled with data streams and sensor readings. Lisa took her place in the captain's chair and looked at the main display. 3 massive ships hung in space before them, each one 10 times larger than the Harmony. Their black hulls seemed to absorb light, making them look like holes cut into the fabric of space itself. "They're beautiful," whispered Dr. Kevin Park, the ship's chief scientist. He stood beside Lisa's chair, his eyes wide with wonder. "Look at those energy patterns." "I've never seen anything like it," Lisa nodded, but she felt uneasy. The Zephyrian ships did not look like anything humans had ever built. They were too smooth, too perfect. No visible engines, no communication arrays, no weapons that she could identify. They simply existed in space like living things. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Communications Officer Amy Foster. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and nervous hands that moved constantly over her control panel. "They want to talk." "Put it through, Lisa." Ordered. The main screen flickered and changed. A figure appeared, tall and thin, with pale blue skin and eyes that seemed to glow with their own light. When it spoke, its voice was like music, but there was something cold underneath the beauty. "I am Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Coalition," the alien said. "You represent the species called human, yes?" "I am Captain Lisa Martinez of the Earth vessel Harmony," Lisa replied, standing up from her chair. "We come in peace, seeking friendship and trade with your people." The alien's mouth curved into what might have been a smile, but it did not reach those glowing eyes. "Peace. Yes, we know of your desire for peace. We have studied your species for some time now. You are ... interesting." Behind Commander Vex, Lisa could see other figures moving in the shadows. She counted at least 6 different types of aliens, all standing together in what looked like a council chamber. These were the 12 species that made up the Zephyrian Coalition, the power that had ruled this part of the galaxy for thousands of years. "We have a proposal for humanity," Vex continued. "Your species shows promise. You have spread across many worlds in a short time. You adapt quickly. You would make useful servants." The word hit Lisa like a physical blow. "Servants?" "Yes, you will join our coalition as a client species. You will provide us with workers, soldiers, and resources. In return, we will allow you to continue existing. It is a generous offer." Lisa felt her heart pounding, but she kept her voice steady. "And if we refuse?" Vex's smile grew wider. "Then you will cease to exist. But let me show you why refusal would be ... unwise." The alien gestured with one long finger and the screen split. Half still showed Commander Vex, but the other half now displayed a view of space outside the Harmony. Lisa could see their escort ships, 3 smaller vessels that had accompanied them to this meeting. The ships hung in space about 1,000 kilometers away, their running lights blinking steadily. "Watch carefully," Vex said. The alien raised his hand, and something impossible happened. The 3 escort ships simply vanished. One moment they were there, solid and real, and the next moment they were gone. No explosion, no flash of light, no debris. They had been erased from existence as if they had never been there at all. Gasps echoed across the bridge. Lisa heard someone whisper, "Oh my God," behind her. She stared at the empty space where her ships had been, where 60 of her people had been just seconds ago. How? Dr. Park asked, his voice barely audible. We have many abilities that your species would consider magic, Vex replied. We can move matter through dimensions, bend space and time, manipulate the very fabric of reality. Your technology is like stone tools compared to ours. Lieutenant Jake Sullivan was staring at his sensor readings, his face pale but focused. Lisa noticed that he was taking notes, his fingers moving quickly across his tablet. There was something in his expression that caught her attention, a look of intense concentration rather than fear. You have 1 Earth day to consider our offer, Vex continued. Submit to the coalition, and your species will survive. Refuse, and you will join your escort ships in oblivion. We will return tomorrow for your answer. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lisa looked around at her crew, seeing fear and despair in their faces. They were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. They had come here hoping to make friends, and instead they had found masters who saw them as nothing more than useful animals. Captain, Jake said quietly, I need to show you something. Lisa nodded and followed him to his engineering station. The young lieutenant pulled up a series of sensor readings on his screen, his eyes bright with excitement despite the situation. Look at this, he said, pointing at the data. The energy signatures right before the ships vanished. They didn't get destroyed, Captain. They got moved. Moved where? I'm not sure yet, but I think they're still out there. Somewhere else, maybe in a different dimension. The energy readings show displacement, not destruction. It's like they got folded out of our reality. Lisa felt a spark of hope. Are you saying they might still be alive? Maybe, and if they are, if this is really just advanced technology instead of magic, then maybe we can figure out how to bring them back. Dr. Park had joined them, listening to Jake's explanation. The laws of physics still apply, he said slowly. Even if they're using science we don't understand, it's still science, and science can be learned. Lisa looked out at the stars again, but now they looked different. Not strange and hostile, but full of possibilities. The Zephyrians thought they were dealing with a primitive species that would either submit or die. They had no idea what humans were really capable of when their backs were against the wall. Jake, I want you to study those readings. Find out everything you can about how they did it. Kevin, start working on theories. We have 24 hours to figure out how to save our people and our species. The crew began to move with new purpose. They had been given an impossible choice, but humans had a long history of finding third options when faced with surrender or death. The Zephyrians had just made their first mistake. They had shown their power, but they had also shown their hand. The magic show was about to begin. The Harmony Science Labs had never been busier. Dr. Kevin Park stood in front of 3 holographic displays, each one showing different readings from the moment the escort ships vanished. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his mind was sharp with discovery. Show me the quantum signature again, he said to his assistant. Dr. Carolyn Lee, she was a brilliant physicist who had joined the mission to study alien technology. Now she might be humanity's best hope for survival. Carolyn pulled up the data on the main screen. Look at this pattern, she said, pointing to a series of wave-like curves. Right before the ships disappeared, there was a massive spike in quantum field activity. But it's not random. There's a structure to it, like a key turning in a lock. Kevin nodded slowly. The Zephyrians aren't creating energy from nothing. They're using something that already exists, something built into the fabric of space itself. Across the lab, Lieutenant Jake Sullivan was taking apart a piece of equipment that had been damaged during the alien demonstration. When the ships vanished, several systems on the Harmony had experienced brief malfunctions. Jake hoped these glitches might tell him something about how the alien technology worked. Captain Martinez to all senior staff, came the voice over the ship's communication system. Report to Conference Room Alpha immediately. The team gathered around a large oval table. Captain Lisa Martinez looked tired but determined. Beside her sat Commander Amy Foster, who had been promoted to first officer after the previous commander vanished with the escort ships. The weight of command sat heavily on both women's shoulders. "Report," Lisa said simply. Kevin stood up first. "We've learned something important. The technology the Zephyrians used isn't actually magic. It's based on quantum field manipulation, but it's far more advanced than anything we've seen before. They're not just moving matter through space. They're moving it through dimensions. Can we recreate it?" Amy asked. "Not yet," Kevin admitted, "but we might be able to defend against it. The key is understanding how they target their effects. Every quantum signature is unique, like a fingerprint. If we can scramble our ship's signature, we might be able to avoid their displacement technology." Jake cleared his throat. "There's something else. I've been analyzing the damaged equipment and I found traces of an unknown element. It's not on any periodic table, but it seems to be some kind of quantum conductor. If the Zephyrians are using this element in their technology, it might be their weakness." Lisa leaned forward. "What kind of weakness?" "All technology has limits," Jake explained. "If this element is essential to their dimensional manipulation, then disrupting it might shut down their abilities entirely. We just need to figure out how." Dr. Carolyn Lee had been quiet during the discussion, but now she spoke up. "I've been thinking about something Commander Vex said. He mentioned that they've been studying humanity for some time. What if they chose us specifically because they thought we'd be easy to control?" "Go on," Lisa said. "Most species probably submit when they see this kind of power," Carolyn continued. "But humans have a history of fighting against impossible odds. Maybe they don't really understand what they're dealing with." Amy nodded. "That could work in our favor. If they underestimate us, we might have more time to prepare than they think." Suddenly, the ship's alarms began to sound. The red warning lights bathed the conference room in an eerie glow. Lieutenant Danny Wright's voice came through the communication system, tense with urgency. "Captain, we're detecting multiple ships approaching our position. They're not Zephyrian." Lisa stood up quickly. "All hands to battle stations. I want full sensor scans of those ships." The senior staff rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, they could see 5 vessels approaching the Harmony. These ships were different from the Zephyrian vessels. They were smaller, more colorful, and they moved with a jerky, unpredictable pattern. "They're hailing us," reported the communications. "Officer, put it through," Lisa ordered. The face that appeared on the screen was unlike anything the humans had seen before. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and its skin was covered in scales that shifted color as it spoke. "Human vessel, I am Captain Zara of the Calexian Republic. We come with information that may save your species." Lisa glanced at her crew, then back at the screen. "We're listening." "The Zephyrian coalition is not what it appears to be," Zara continued. "They present themselves as the rightful rulers of this galaxy, but their power is stolen. They found the ruins of an ancient civilization called the Architects, and they learned to use their technology without understanding it. This was exactly what Dr. Park had suspected." "What happened to the Architects?" Lisa asked. "They vanished long ago, but their technology remains scattered across the galaxy. The Zephyrians have collected most of it, but they are not the only ones who know its secrets. My people have been fighting against their expansion for centuries." "Why are you telling us this?" Amy asked, Zara's 4 eyes focused on the human officers. "Because your species may be the key to stopping them. The Architect technology was designed to work with a specific type of consciousness. Most species in the galaxy have similar mental patterns, but humans are different. Your brain structure, your thought processes, they don't match what the Architects expected." Kevin leaned forward, his scientific mind racing. "Different how?" "The Architects built their technology to work with collective consciousness, with minds that think as one. But humans are individuals. You think independently, you question everything, you refuse to accept limitations. This makes you unpredictable to their systems." Lisa felt a chill of understanding. "Are you saying their technology might not work properly against us?" "More than that," Zara replied. "If our theories are correct, Humans might be able to use architect technology in ways the Zephyrians never imagined. But first, you need to understand what you're really fighting against. The Calexian captain gestured and new information appeared. On the Harmony screens, star charts, technical diagrams, and historical records filled the displays. The Zephyrian coalition controls 12 species, but they rule through fear and technology they don't truly understand. They've been expanding across the galaxy for thousands of years, absorbing other civilizations, but they've never encountered a species like humanity. What makes you think we can succeed where others have failed? Lisa asked. Because you're already succeeding, Zara replied. Your escort ships, the ones that vanished, they're not destroyed. They're trapped in a dimensional pocket, but they're still intact. The Zephyrians expected them to be gone forever, but your ships are fighting. Back. Jake jumped up from his station. I'm detecting energy signatures from the displacement zone. There are definitely ships there, and they're active. Your people are trying to break free, Zara explained. The architect technology isn't designed to hold minds like yours. Given time, they might find a way to escape on their own. Lisa felt hope growing in her chest. How do we help them? First, you need to understand the true nature of the technology you're fighting. The Zephyrians call it magic, but it's really advanced science based on quantum consciousness manipulation. They've been using it to control other species for so long that they've forgotten its limitations. Dr. Park was taking notes frantically. What are those limitations? The technology requires a specific type of mental signature to function properly. It works by convincing the target's consciousness that reality has changed. But human consciousness is too chaotic, too individual. You don't accept changes to reality the way other species do. Carolyn looked up from her readings. That's why. Jake could detect the displacement. Our sensors couldn't accept that the ships were simply gone, so they kept looking for them. Exactly, Zara confirmed. Human stubbornness is your greatest weapon against the Zephyrians. They've built their entire empire on making other species believe that resistance is impossible, but humans have never been good at accepting the impossible. Amy smiled grimly. So what do we do now? Now you prepare for war, Zara said, but not the kind of war the Zephyrians expect. You're going to fight them with the one thing they can't understand or control, human creativity. Lisa looked around at her crew, seeing determination replacing fear in their faces. The Zephyrians had made a critical error. They had assumed that humans would react like every other species they had conquered. But humans had a long history of turning their weaknesses into strengths. Thank you, Captain Zara, Lisa said. How can we contact you again? We'll be watching, Zara replied. When you're ready to strike back, we'll be there to help. But remember, the real battle will be fought not with weapons, but with ideas. The Zephyrians have forgotten that technology is just a tool. It's the mind that wields it that matters. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in thoughtful silence. Lisa looked at her crew, seeing scientists and explorers transforming into something more dangerous, humans with a problem to solve. All right, people, she said, we have work to do. The Zephyrians think they're dealing with a primitive species. Let's show them what human ingenuity really looks like. The countdown timer on the bridge showed 8 hours and 37 minutes until the Zephyrian deadline. Captain Lisa Martinez stood in the center of the command deck, watching her crew work with quiet intensity. Everyone knew that humanity's fate would be decided in the next few hours. Status report, Lisa called out. Lieutenant Jake Sullivan looked up from his engineering console. We've identified the quantum signature patterns for the dimensional displacement technology. Dr. Park thinks he can create a jamming field that might protect us from their next attack. Dr. Kevin Park nodded from his science station. The theory is sound, but I need more time to test it. One mistake and we could end up displaced ourselves? How much time? Lisa asked. At least 12 hours, maybe more. Lisa felt her heart sink. They had less than 9 hours before Commander Vex returned for their answer. But she had learned something important during her years in command. Sometimes, the best solution was to change the rules of the game entirely. Jake, I want you to start working on something else, she said. Can you modify our communication system to reach the trapped ships in the dimensional pocket? Jake's eyes lit up with understanding. If I can establish contact with them, maybe we can coordinate our efforts? 2 attacks at once might be harder for the Zephyrians to handle. Do it, Lisa ordered. Across the bridge, Commander Amy Foster was studying intelligence reports about the Zephyrian coalition. Captain Zara had provided detailed information about their military structure, their territories, and their weaknesses. What she had discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. Captain, Amy said, I've been analyzing the coalition's expansion patterns. They don't just conquer species. They absorb them completely. Within a generation, the conquered races lose their original culture, their technology, even their languages. They become extensions of the Zephyrian will. That's not going to happen to us, Lisa said firmly. No, it's not, Amy agreed. But there's something else. The coalition has been expanding for thousands of years, but their rate of expansion has been slowing down. I think they're running out of easily conquered species. Dr. Carolyn Lee had been listening while working on her own project. That makes sense, she said. If they're relying on stolen technology they don't fully understand, they might be reaching the limits of what they can control. Lisa walked over to Caroline's workstation. What are you working on? I'm trying to understand how the architect technology actually works, Carolyn explained. Based on what Captain Zara told us, it's not just about manipulating matter. It's about manipulating consciousness itself. The Zephyrians make other species believe that reality has changed, and that belief makes the change real. But it doesn't work the same way on humans, Lisa said. Right, human consciousness is too chaotic, too individual. We don't accept changes to reality without questioning them. That's why Jake could detect the displaced ships when the Zephyrians expected them to be completely gone. An idea began to form in Lisa's mind. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it might be their only chance. Carolyn, what would happen if we deliberately exposed ourselves to their displacement technology? Carolyn looked shocked. Captain, that's extremely dangerous. We could be trapped in the dimensional pocket forever. Or we could learn exactly how their technology works, Lisa countered. If human consciousness can resist their effects, maybe we can find a way to turn their own weapons against them. Amy stepped forward. Captain, with respect, that's a huge risk. We're the only hope our species has right now, are we? Lisa asked. Or are we just running scared while the Zephyrians decide our fate? I think it's time we stopped reacting and started acting. She turned to address the entire bridge crew. I'm going to initiate what I'm calling the Houdini protocol. We're going to appear to surrender to the Zephyrians, but in reality, we're going to be gathering intelligence and preparing for a counterattack. Lieutenant Danny Wright looked up from his tactical station. What exactly does that mean, Captain? It means we're going to let them think they've won, Lisa explained. We'll act like a defeated species while we learn everything we can about their technology, their weaknesses, and their plans. Then, when they least expect it, we'll strike back. Jake had been working frantically on the communication modifications. Suddenly, his console lit up with activity. Captain, I'm getting a signal from the dimensional pocket. It's weak, but it's definitely our people. Put it through, Lisa ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a grainy image of Colonel Steve Johnson, the commander of the escort fleet. Behind him, Lisa could see the bridge of his ship, the Defiant. Everything looked normal except for a strange shimmer in the air, as if they were looking at the world through water. Lisa, thank God, Steve said, his voice distorted by static. We're trapped in some kind of parallel dimension. The Zephyrians think we're gone, but we're still here. What's your status? Lisa asked. All 3 ships are intact. Crews are unharmed. But we can't seem to break through to normal space. Every time we try, something pushes us back. Dr. Park leaned into the communication pickup. Steve, I need you to run a full sensor sweep of your local space. Pay special attention to quantum field fluctuations. Already on it, Steve replied. Kevin, this technology is incredible. It's like they've created a pocket universe just for us, but there's something else. We're not alone in here, Lisa felt a chill. What do you mean? There are other ships in this dimension. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Ships from dozens of different species, all trapped here over the centuries. Some of them have been here for so long their crews have given up hope entirely. The implications hit everyone on the bridge at once. The Zephyrians hadn't just been conquering species. They had been collecting them, storing them in dimensional prisons where they could be controlled and used as needed. "Steve, I need you to make contact with those other ships," Lisa said. "Find out what they know about the Zephyrians. Learn everything you can about their technology and their tactics." "Understood," Steve replied. "What about you? Are you really going to surrender to them?" "No," Lisa said firmly. "We're going to make them think we've surrendered." There's a difference. The communication began to break up as the dimensional barrier reasserted itself. Steve's image flickered and faded, but his final words came through clearly. "We'll be ready when you need us." Lisa turned back to her crew. "All right, people. We have our mission. When Commander Vex returns, we're going to give him exactly what he expects. A defeated human captain begging for mercy." "And then?" Amy asked. "Then we show him that humans have been performing magic tricks for thousands of years," Lisa replied. "The key to any good magic trick is misdirection. Make the audience look where you want them to look while you prepare the real surprise." Dr. Park was already working on new calculations. "If we can convince them that we're completely helpless, they might let us get close to their technology. Close enough to study it, to understand it, and maybe even to sabotage it." Carolyn nodded enthusiastically. "And if we can free the ships? In the dimensional pocket at the same time, we'll have a fleet they don't know about." Jake was monitoring the approaching Zephyrian vessels. "Contact in 30 minutes, he reported. 3 ships, same as before." Lisa took a deep breath. "Remember, everyone, we're not just fighting for humanity's survival. We're fighting for every species that's been trapped in their dimensional prisons. This is bigger than just us." The crew worked in focused silence, each person preparing for their role in the deception. Lisa watched them and felt a surge of pride. These weren't soldiers or spies. They were scientists, explorers, and dreamers who had been pushed too far. Now they were about to show the galaxy what happened when humans were backed into a corner. "Captain," Amy said quietly, "what if this doesn't work? What if we really do end up as their servants?" Lisa smiled grimly. "Then we'll be the worst servants in the history of the galaxy." "But it's not going to come to that. The Zephyrians have made one critical mistake." "What's that?" "They think they understand humans. They've studied us, categorized us, and decided we're just another species to be conquered. But they've never encountered anything like human stubbornness before. They're about to learn that humans don't just refuse to accept defeat. We refuse to accept that defeat is even possible." The bridge lights dimmed as the Zephyrian ships approached. Lisa straightened her uniform and prepared to give the performance of her life. The magic show was about to begin, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. "Incoming transmission," reported the communications officer. "Put it through, Lisa," said, "and remember, everyone, we're terrified, defeated, and completely at their mercy." But in her heart, Lisa knew the truth. The Zephyrians had just made the biggest mistake of their long, conquering history. They had given humans time to think, and nothing in the galaxy was more dangerous than a human with a problem to solve. Commander Vex appeared on the main screen exactly as the countdown timer reached 0. His pale blue face showed no emotion, but his glowing eyes seemed to pierce through the display directly into Lisa's soul. Behind him, the shadowy forms of the other coalition species watched in silence. "Captain Martinez," Vex said, his musical voice carrying a note of certainty. "Have you made your decision?" Lisa stood slowly, letting her shoulders slump forward. In defeat, she had practiced this moment for hours, studying recordings of other defeated captains to perfect her performance. We have no choice," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Speak clearly," Vex commanded. Lisa took a shaky breath and looked up at the alien commander. "Humanity accepts your terms." We will serve the coalition. A smile spread across Vex's face, but it was not a pleasant expression. Excellent. You have made the wise choice. Your species will be relocated to Colony World 7, where you will be processed. Processed? Lisa asked, allowing genuine fear to creep into her voice. Your culture will be studied and cataloged before being discarded. Your technology will be absorbed into coalition databases. Your people will be trained for their new roles as workers and soldiers. It is a standard procedure. Behind Lisa, she could hear quiet sounds of distress from her crew. They were not acting. The reality of what submission meant was hitting them. All at once. How long do we have? Lisa asked. The relocation will begin immediately, Vex replied. Prepare your ship for docking. Coalition personnel will board shortly to begin the integration process. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lisa waited a few seconds, then turned to her crew. Remember, she said quietly, this is just the beginning. Stay alert and follow my lead. 20 minutes later, the first coalition boarding party arrived. Lisa watched through the security monitors as strange beings moved through the corridors of her ship. There were tall, thin creatures with too many joints in their arms. Short, round aliens with eyes that covered half their faces. Beings that looked like walking crystals, refracting light as they moved, but it was the Zephyrians who were clearly in charge. They moved with confidence, directing the other species with casual authority. Lisa noticed that the other aliens seemed afraid of them, following orders without question. Captain Martinez, came a voice from the corridor. Report to Docking Bay 2 for processing. Lisa exchanged a look with Amy, then left the bridge. As she walked through her ship, she saw coalition personnel examining everything. They scanned the walls, the equipment, even the air itself. Nothing was being left to chance. In the docking bay, Lisa found herself face to face with a Zephyrian. Female, she was shorter than Commander Vex, but her presence was just as commanding. Her pale blue skin seemed to glow with its own light. I am Sub-Commander Lyra, the alien said. You will accompany me to the command ship for final processing. What about my crew? Lisa asked. They will remain here until transport ships arrive. Do not worry, Captain. Your people will be well cared for. Lisa knew that was a lie, but she nodded anyway. As she followed Lyra toward the alien shuttle, she caught sight of Jake Sullivan working at a maintenance panel. He looked up briefly, and she saw him tap his chest twice with his finger. The signal meant that the communication link to the dimensional pocket was still active. The shuttle ride to the Zephyrian command ship was eerily quiet. Lisa stared out the window at the massive alien vessel, trying to memorize every detail. The ship's surface was covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as she watched them. Inside the command ship, Lisa was led through corridors that defied her understanding of physics. The walls curved in impossible directions, and gravity seemed to change with each step. She began to understand why the Zephyrians considered their technology to be magic. Impressive, is it not? Lyra said, noticing Lisa's confusion. The architect technology allows us to manipulate space itself. Your primitive minds cannot fully comprehend what you are seeing. Lisa played her role perfectly. It's incredible, she breathed. How do you control it all? Years of study and practice, Lyra replied. Though I must admit, even we do not understand all of the architect's secrets. Some knowledge was lost when their civilization fell. They entered a large chamber filled with strange devices. In the center was a chair surrounded by glowing panels. Lisa felt a chill when she realized what it was. The consciousness scanner, Lyra explained. It will map your neural patterns and identify the most efficient ways to control your species. The process is uncomfortable but necessary. Lisa allowed herself to be strapped into the chair. As the device activated, she felt a strange tingling sensation in her mind. Images flashed before her eyes, memories from her childhood, her training, her years in space. But she had prepared for this moment. Following Dr. Park's instructions, Lisa focused on specific thoughts and memories. She filled her mind with images of human fear, desperation, and helplessness. She thought about humanity's history of warfare. but only the defeats. She remembered every story of surrender and conquest she had ever heard. The scanner hummed and clicked around her head. Lisa could feel it probing her thoughts, trying to understand how human consciousness worked. But she was giving it exactly what she wanted it to find: a broken, defeated species ready to be controlled. "Fascinating," Lyra murmured, studying the readouts. "Your species has a remarkably chaotic thought pattern. Very individualistic. This will make the integration process more complex." "Is that bad?" Lisa asked weakly. "No, merely different. Each species presents unique challenges. We have conquered races with collective consciousness, hive minds, and even energy beings. Humans are simply another puzzle to be solved." Lisa felt the scanner powering down. She had survived the first test, but she knew the real challenge was just beginning. As Lyra unstrapped her from the chair, Lisa caught a glimpse of the readouts. The scanner had detected what it interpreted as human weakness and fear, but it had completely missed the underlying determination and stubbornness that defined her species. "You will be returned to your ship now," Lyra said. "The transport fleet will arrive in 6 hours. Use this time to prepare your people for their new lives." Lisa was escorted back to the shuttle, but during the journey, she memorized everything she could about the command ship's layout. She noted the location of the control centers, the power sources, and most importantly, the strange devices that seemed to control the dimensional displacement technology. Back on the Harmony, Lisa immediately called a meeting with her senior staff. They gathered in her quarters, where the chances of being overheard were minimal. "Report?" Lisa said quietly. Jake spoke first. "I've established regular communication with Colonel Johnson. He's made contact with ships from 17 different species in the dimensional pocket. They're all willing to help if we can find a way to free them." "What about the coalition boarding parties?" Amy asked. "They're scanning everything, but they're not looking for weapons or resistance," Jake replied. "They think we're completely defeated. They're just cataloging our technology." Dr. Park leaned forward. "I've been studying the aliens who boarded our ship. Their technology is incredible, but they're using it like tools without understanding the underlying principles. It's like giving a computer to someone who's never seen electricity." "That's our advantage," Lisa said. "What did you learn?" "From the consciousness scanner? It's designed to map neural patterns and identify psychological weaknesses," Carolyn explained. "But it's calibrated for alien thought processes. It can't properly read human consciousness because we're too unpredictable." Lisa smiled grimly. "Then we continue with the plan. We let them think they've broken us while we prepare for the real fight." Suddenly, the ship's communication system crackled to life. It was Colonel Johnson's voice, but it was different now. Stronger, more confident. "Lisa, we've got news. The ships trapped in here aren't just prisoners. Some of them have been studying the dimensional technology for centuries. They've figured out how to manipulate it from the inside." Lisa felt her heart race. What kind of manipulation? "They can't escape on their own, but they can create disruptions. If you can coordinate an attack from your side at the exact right moment, they might be able to break through." "How will we know when?" "We're working on that." "But Lisa, there's something else. The aliens in here, they're not just from conquered species. Some of them are survivors from the architect civilization." The room fell silent. Lisa stared at the communication device, hardly believing what she had heard. "Are you saying the architects aren't extinct?" she asked. "Not all of them. A few escaped when the Zephyrians found their homeworld. They've been trapped in this dimension for thousands of years, but they've never stopped fighting. And now they want to help us." Lisa looked around at her crew, seeing the same thought in everyone's eyes. They weren't just fighting for humanity anymore. They were fighting for justice, for freedom, and for the chance to right an ancient wrong. "Steve, tell the architects we accept their help," Lisa said. "And tell them that humans have a saying. The show must go on." 6 hours later, the transport ships arrived. Lisa watched from the bridge as massive alien vessels surrounded the Harmony. But she wasn't afraid anymore. The Zephyrians thought they were about to add The transport ships surrounded the Harmony like hungry predators. Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge, watching as coalition soldiers prepared to board her vessel. Everything had to look normal. Everything had to appear as if humanity had truly given up. "Captain," whispered Lieutenant Jake Sullivan, "the dimensional communication link is active." "Colonel Johnson is standing by," Lisa nodded slightly. The plan was in motion, but timing would be everything. One mistake and humanity would be lost forever. Sub-Commander Lyra's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. "Attention human crew. Prepare for immediate transfer to transport vessels. Bring nothing with you. Your old life is over." Lisa watched her crew file toward the docking bays. Each person played their part perfectly, moving slowly with heads down. Looking defeated, but Lisa knew better. Hidden beneath their clothing, each crew member carried small devices that Dr. Park had created. When activated, these devices would disrupt the Zephyrian technology for exactly 37 seconds. 37 seconds, that was all the time they would have. "Captain Martinez," Lyra called as she entered the bridge. "You will come with me to observe the processing of your crew. It will help you understand your new role as a liaison between your species and the Coalition." Lisa followed the alien commander to the main docking bay. Through the massive windows, she could see her crew being herded onto the transport ships. They looked so small and helpless against the alien technology, but appearances could be deceiving. "Your people adapt quickly," Lyra observed. "This will make the integration process much easier." "We just want to survive," Lisa said, keeping her voice flat and hopeless. "Survival is all any species can ask for," Lyra replied. "The Coalition provides order and purpose. Your people will find meaning in service." Lisa bit back her real response. Instead, she watched as the last of her crew disappeared into the transport ships. Now came the hardest part, waiting for the signal, deep in the dimensional pocket. Colonel Steve Johnson floated in the zero gravity of his damaged ship. Around him, the crews of 17 different species worked together on the most ambitious plan any of them had ever attempted. "Are the quantum disruptors ready?" Steve asked. An architect survivor named Keth answered with a voice like wind chimes. "The devices are prepared, human colonel. When your captain gives the signal, we will create a massive disturbance in the dimensional barriers." Steve looked at the beings around him. Some had been trapped in this dimension for hundreds of years. Others, like the architects, had been prisoners for millennia. All of them shared the same desperate hope. "Remember," Steve said, "we only get one chance at this. If we fail, the Zephyrians will strengthen their defenses. There won't be a second opportunity." A crystalline being from the Vathari species flickered with inner light. "We understand, Colonel Johnson. Our freedom depends on perfect timing." Back on the Harmony, Lisa continued her performance. She stood beside Lyra, watching the transport ships fill with human prisoners. Her heart ached, seeing her people treated like cargo, but she forced herself to remember that this was all part of the plan. "Tell me about Earth," Lyra said suddenly. "We have studied your homeworld, but I am curious about your personal perspective." Lisa talked about blue skies and green forests, about cities and oceans. She painted a picture of a peaceful world full of simple people who just wanted to live their lives. With every word, she reinforced the image of humans as harmless and easily controlled. But while she spoke, Lisa was counting seconds. Dr. Park had calculated that the transport process would take exactly 43 minutes. They were now at 38 minutes. Soon it would be time. "Your world sounds pleasant," Lyra said. "Perhaps we will preserve some of it as a museum when the relocation is complete." "You're going to destroy Earth?" Lisa asked, genuine horror in her voice. "Not destroy, repurpose. The Coalition has many uses for habitable worlds. Your people will be given new homes better suited to their new roles." Lisa felt anger burning in her chest, but she kept it hidden. Just a few more minutes. Just a little longer. In the dimensional pocket, Steve received the final signal from Jake Sullivan. It was time. "All ships prepare for dimensional disruption." Steve broadcast. "Architects begin the sequence." Keth and the other architect survivors moved to strange devices that looked like frozen lightning. These were emergency systems built into their ships thousands of years ago, designed to punch through dimensional barriers in case of catastrophe. The barriers are weakening, Keth reported, but we need more power. Human Colonel, your ships must add their energy to ours. Steve turned to his crew, all power to the dimensional disruptors. Everything we have. The 3 human ships diverted all energy from life support, weapons, and engines. In the strange physics of the dimensional pocket, this created a resonance effect that amplified the architect technology. Back in normal space, Lisa felt the ship vibrate slightly. It was so subtle that she almost missed it, but she had been waiting for exactly this signal. Is something wrong? Lyra asked, noticing the tremor. I don't know, Lisa replied innocently. Maybe the engines are having problems. But she knew better. The dimensional barriers were beginning to crack. Lisa touched her earpiece, activating the hidden communication device. Jake, begin the sequence. Across the Harmony and the transport ships, human crew members began activating their disruption devices. The effects were immediate but subtle. Lights flickered for a moment. Gravity fluctuated slightly. The strange symbols on the walls dimmed briefly. Minor system fluctuations, Lyra said, checking her own device. Nothing to worry about. But Lisa could see confusion on the alien commander's face. These systems weren't supposed to have fluctuations. The architect technology was supposed to be perfect. In the dimensional pocket, the combined energy from human and architect technology created a massive surge. The barriers that had held the trapped ships for centuries began to crack and splinter. It's working, Steve shouted. The dimensional walls are failing. Keth's wind chime voice rose in excitement. The way is opening, Human Colonel. Prepare your ships for emergence. Steve activated the ship-wide communication system. All ships, this is Colonel Johnson. We're breaking through. Prepare for battle. Back on the Harmony, the vibrations were getting stronger. Lisa could see alarm spreading across Lyra's face as more and more systems began to malfunction. What is happening? Lyra demanded, speaking into her own communication device. Command. Ship, respond. The answer came in a voice filled with panic. Sub-Commander, we're detecting massive dimensional disturbances. Something is trying to break through from the displacement zone. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. That's impossible, she said innocently. I thought you said the ships were gone forever. Lyra spun to face her, and for the first time, Lisa saw fear in the alien's glowing eyes. What have you done? Nothing, Lisa replied. I'm just a defeated human captain, remember? Suddenly, space around the Coalition fleet exploded with light. The dimensional barriers shattered like glass, and ships began pouring through. Not just the 3 human vessels, but dozens of alien ships from species the galaxy had thought extinct. Impossible, Lyra screamed into her communicator. Deploy. Old defensive systems, destroy them. But the Coalition fleet was in chaos. The sudden appearance of so many ships had confused their targeting systems. Worse, the dimensional disruption had damaged many of their own systems. Lisa dropped her act completely. Jake now. Lieutenant Sullivan activated the final stage of their plan. Every human crew member on every transport ship triggered their remaining disruption devices simultaneously. The coordinated pulse overloaded the Zephyrian control systems. Throughout the Coalition fleet, lights went out. Gravity failed. Weapon systems shut down. The technology that had made them masters of the galaxy suddenly stopped working. How? Lyra whispered, staring at Lisa in shock. Human stubbornness, Lisa replied. Your consciousness scanner couldn't read us properly because we don't think like other species. We don't accept defeat. We don't accept that something is impossible. And we definitely don't accept bullies. The communication system crackled to life with Steve Johnson's voice. Lisa, this is Steve. We're free and we're angry. The architects have taught us how to turn their own technology against them. Lisa walked to the window and looked out at the battle raging in space. Human ships fought alongside vessels from a dozen other species, all united against their former Captors, the Zephyrian fleet, dependent on technology they didn't understand, was falling apart. Your empire is over, Lisa told Lyra. The galaxy is about to learn that the Coalition's power was just a magic trick. And now everyone can see behind the curtain. Lyra looked out at the chaos, watching centuries of conquest crumble in minutes. This is not possible, she said weakly. Get used to being surprised, Lisa replied. Humans are just getting started. The liberation of the galaxy had begun, and it started with the oldest trick in the book, making your enemy think you were something you were not. The Zephyrians had believed they were facing helpless primitives. Instead, they had awakened humanity. 3 months after the battle, Captain Lisa Martinez stood in the great assembly hall of New Harmony Station. Around her, representatives from 47 different species sat in a vast circle, their voices blending into a symphony of languages and sounds. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was truly free. The motion is carried, announced Elder Keth, the architect survivor who now served as the council's mediator. The ancient being's voice chimed like crystal bells in the vast chamber. The Galactic Freedom Alliance is officially established. Applause erupted from the assembled delegates. Lisa smiled as she watched former enemies shake hands and tentacles and claws. The Zephyrian War, as historians were already calling it, had lasted only 6 weeks. But its effects would shape the galaxy for generations to come, after the council session. Lisa walked through the station's observation deck. Through the massive windows, she could see ships from dozens of worlds coming and going. Trade vessels, exploration ships, and diplomatic shuttles filled the space lanes that had once been controlled by Coalition warships. Quite a view, said a familiar voice behind her. Lisa turned to see Dr. Kevin Park approaching. He looked tired but satisfied. His hair had turned gray during the war, but his eyes still sparkled with the curiosity that had helped save humanity. How are the research projects going? Lisa asked. Kevin joined her at the window. Better than we ever hoped. The architect. Survivors have been incredibly generous with their knowledge. We're learning things about physics that will revolutionize space travel. Any word from Earth? The Dimensional Gateway project is ahead of schedule. Within a year we'll be able to travel instantly between star systems. The old Coalition took centuries to build their empire by conquering others. We're going to explore the galaxy as partners. Lisa nodded, watching a group of human children playing with young aliens in the station's central park. The sight filled her with hope for the future. Captain Martinez to the communication center, came an announcement over the station's speakers. Priority message from the Zephyrian homeworld, Lisa sighed. Even in victory there were always complications. She made her way to the communication center, where Commander Amy Foster was waiting with a concerned expression. What is it? Lisa asked. Amy activated the main display. The face that appeared was unexpected. It was Commander Vex, but he looked different. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been humility. Captain Martinez, Vex said, his musical voice subdued. I request permission to speak with you. I'm listening, Lisa replied carefully. My people, we have been discussing what happened during the war. We have reached some difficult conclusions about our past actions. Lisa crossed her arms. Go on. For thousands of years we believed we were bringing order to the galaxy. We told ourselves that conquest was necessary, that weaker species needed our guidance. But your victory has shown us the truth, which is? Vex looked directly into the camera, his glowing eyes dim with shame. We were not leaders. We were thieves and bullies who stole the achievements of a greater civilization. The architects created wonders, and we used them to enslave others. Amy stepped forward. What are you asking for? Forgiveness, Vex said simply, and a chance to make amends. Lisa studied the alien commander's face. During the war, several Zephyrian ships had surrendered rather than fight to the death. The crews had seemed genuinely shocked to learn the true history of their empire. Many had claimed they never knew about the dimensional prisons or the systematic destruction of conquered cultures. What kind of amends? Lisa asked. We have spent the past months searching our archives. We have found records of over 200 species that we absorbed over the centuries. Their cultures, their languages, their art and music and literature. We preserved them in our databases, never thinking they might someday be returned. Lisa felt her breath catch. You're offering to help restore the lost civilizations? More than that. We want to help rebuild them. We know where many of their homeworlds are located. We can provide resources, technology, whatever is needed to help these peoples reclaim their heritage. Amy looked skeptical. Why should we trust you? Vex's expression grew even more serious. Because we have seen what humans are capable of when they fight for justice. We do not wish to be your enemies. And perhaps in helping others, we can find a way to redeem ourselves. Lisa considered the offer. The war crimes committed by the coalition were enormous, but she had learned something important during the conflict. Hatred and revenge solved nothing. The galaxy needed healing, not more violence. I'll bring your proposal to the Alliance Council, she said finally. But understand this. If you're lying, if this is some kind of trick, humanity will find out. And next time, we won't be so merciful. I understand, Vex replied. And Captain? Thank you for showing us that there was a better way. The transmission ended, leaving Lisa and Amy alone in the communication center. Do you think they're sincere? Amy asked. I think they're scared, Lisa replied. And sometimes fear can teach better lessons than victory. Later that evening, Lisa stood in her quarters aboard the Harmony, which had been converted into her personal residence. The ship remained docked at New Harmony Station, serving as both home and symbol of humanity's journey to the stars. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Lisa activated her personal communicator and saw the face of Colonel Steve Johnson. He was back on Earth, helping to coordinate the reconstruction efforts. Lisa, you need to see this, Steve said. Excitement clear in his voice, the display changed to show a view of Earth's night side. But instead of the familiar scattered lights of human cities, the entire planet seemed to glow with a soft, warm radiance. What am I looking at? Lisa asked. The Dimensional Gateway Network, Steve explained. We activated it an hour ago. Every major city on Earth is now connected to the galactic communication grid. For the first time in human history, Earth isn't isolated anymore. Lisa felt tears forming in her eyes. How are people reacting? See for yourself. The display changed again, showing crowds of people in cities around the world. They were looking up at the night sky, many holding hands, many crying with joy. Above them, holographic displays showed images from across the galaxy, alien worlds, strange creatures, and the endless wonders that awaited exploration. Humanity isn't alone anymore, Steve said softly, and we never will be again. As Lisa watched her homeworld celebrate, she thought about the journey that had brought them here. It had started with a magic trick, a desperate gambit to fool an enemy into underestimating them. But it had become something greater, proof that intelligence and determination could overcome any obstacle. Jake Sullivan to Captain Martinez, came a voice from the ship's communication system. Go ahead, Jake, Lisa replied. Captain, we're receiving requests from 17 different species asking for help with exploration missions. Apparently, word has spread about human creativity. When it comes to solving impossible problems, Lisa laughed. Tell them we'll be happy to help. After all, humans have always been good at magic tricks. What's our next destination? Jake asked. Lisa looked out at the stars, seeing not distant lights but future homes for countless species seeking freedom and opportunity. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries waiting to be solved. Everywhere, Jake, she said. We're going everywhere. The Harmony's engines hummed to life, and the ship began to move away from the station. Behind them, New Harmony Station continued its work as the heart of the new Galactic Alliance. Ahead lay the infinite possibilities of unexplored space. Commander Vex had been wrong about one thing. The greatest magic trick humanity had ever performed wasn't making their enemies believe they were helpless. It was making the impossible seem inevitable. They had convinced an entire galaxy that cooperation was stronger than conquest. that diversity was more valuable than uniformity, and that the future belonged to those brave enough to reach for it. The show, as humans like to say, would go on forever.